The NBA Hall of Famer, Dennis Keith Rodman. What if I told you that one of the most fascinating periods of his career is one that many people don't even know about, which was a small window of time filled with many highs, lows, and plenty of controversy. As you all know, the Worm was a 5-time NBA champion who won 2 titles with the Pistons and 3 with the Chicago Bulls. He's one of the top 5 greatest rebounders of all time, and he's one of the top 5 greatest defensive players in NBA history. The vast majority of his career is well documented and well known by the general audience. But contrary to popular belief, there was another fascinating chapter in his story, even after his time with the Bulls. At the end of the 1997 to 1998 NBA season, the Bulls were celebrating their 6th championship in 8 seasons. But the spoils of success were bittersweet, because the Bulls general manager, Jerry Krause, was determined to blow up the very roster that had made his name famous. Phil Jackson was forced out of his head coaching position. Michael Jordan retired in response to Jackson's firing. Scottie Pippen was traded to the Houston Rockets, and the 37-year-old Dennis Rodman was simply cut by the Bulls management, leaving him as a free agent for any potential suitors within the league. The thing is, there was no interest, at least for a while. Yes, Rodman was coming off of recent championship success in Chicago, but he was also remembered for being a locker room headache in his latter years in Detroit and in his 2 seasons in San Antonio. He was also clearly on the decline, as he started in less than half of the Bulls' playoff games in 1998 and didn't start in a single game of the NBA Finals. Not only was he a risk from a chemistry standpoint, but even the upside was now limited due to his quickly increasing age. But alas, one team was desperate enough to make the call: the Los Angeles Lakers. Although the Lakers were certainly one of the most talented teams in the league at the time, to describe them as a work in progress would be an understatement. They had been swept and gentlemen swept out of the last 2 postseasons, and were annually failing to live up to their high expectations. They were a group of dysfunctional egos. Their leader was best described as a giant entitled child, who was as sensitive and demanding as he was playful. Their 20-year-old phenom was anxious to assert himself, and his selfish and showboating approach to the game had often alienated his teammates, causing them to resent him. Their head coach, Kurt Rambis, was a rookie at the position, and he had just replaced the fired Del Harris after 12 games played in the new season. Rambis had no experience as a head coach, and although he was immersed in the players' egos, managing them would be a near impossible task, because he was just starting to get his feet wet with the playbook, let alone the players. On top of all of that, they were now adding the league's most notorious locker room wildcard. And get this, the Lakers were bringing him in with the intention of him being a leader and teaching this team how to win. Yeah, the guy who took Vegas vacations mid-season on the Bulls was now being leaned upon to lead in LA. Many began to question if the Great Western Forum was now becoming a purple and gold circus. To say that the team was split on the acquisition would be an understatement. The Lakers owner, Jerry Buss, was elated to get it done, while their general manager, Jerry West, wasn't thrilled in the slightest. Shaquille O'Neal was thrilled with the move, but the Lakers starting point guard, Derek Harper, said that he thought it was yet another distraction for the team. They say that first impressions are important, and if that's the case, then there's a lot to take away from Rodman's. After plenty of public speculation, Dennis officially announced he was joining the Lakers in a Planet Hollywood casino. Or at least, that's what every reporter in the building expected. He showed up 40 minutes late to his own event alongside of his wife, Carmen Electra. He appeared intoxicated, talked about the great intimacy he was having with his wife, and said that he wanted to play with the Lakers and wanted to play basketball again, as if nothing was agreed upon with the organization. He then told the group of reporters that he only called for a meeting to see if they would show up, and they did. Then a frustrated reporter told Rodman that he was selfish and that he had wasted their time. And then Rodman proceeded to cry, and rant about how he's misunderstood. So the reporters never got an official announcement from Dennis. But 2 days later, the world would now know from the media that he had officially become a Los Angeles Laker. The city of Los Angeles had championship expectations for the last several years, and seeing how they hadn't won a title since the Showtime era in the late 80s, they were basically starving at this point. Now, after adding a player who had been a part of the last 3 NBA championship teams, the crowds were electric, as Rodman was rewarded with a standing ovation for basically every play he did right.
Set to 24, he comes in deep, throws up an 8-footer, no, rebound is off, Rodman wants it, Rodman taps the ball to Shaq and he scores! Rodman on a double tip, got the ball to Shaq. No other player on the Laker team could have made that rebound.
He is so good at just tapping the basketball.
Bobby dribble drive, stop, 20-foot jumper and away short. Rebound is Rodman's grabbed by Rodman, underneath to Shaq, good feed, Shaq scores. Rodman's second rebound. Look at the people standing, shaking their fists, shaking the building.
A simple rebound, and he gets a standing ovation. That one, the ball bounced right to him, but it didn't matter.
Even his teammates were starting to feel the buzz, as the Lakers were not only clicking with their new addition, but they were winning. They defeated the Clippers in his debut game, and then they comfortably beat Hakeem Olajuwon and the Houston Rockets, with Michael Jordan spectating in the crowd, looking like a proud father. After they won their first 2 games with Rodman in the lineup, Dennis took some time to talk about his leadership with Ahmad Rashad, and even managed to forget his own wife's name for a moment.
Here with Dennis Rodman. Now, Dennis, there's so much hype, so much hoopla with you coming on this team about you being the answer. You guys should now go straight to the championship. Do you feel any pressure with all that on your shoulders?
I think the last time I felt pressure when I got married. Everyone in this world knows what I can do and what I can bring to a team. I bring excitement, I bring a lot of hustle, enthusiasm, and this team needs something right now. They need a little leadership, and I thought I'd never say that. But, I'm on a different team with good young guys.
Yeah, but you do lead in your own way.
Yeah.
But you have played on some great basketball teams. As you look around you on this team, does this team have the potential of winning NBA championships?
Well, if these guys can keep focused, stay focused every day, and go out there and do what it takes to win. No matter who scores the point, no matter who's the hero that day, just go out there and work together as a team.
And you will be the leader in that area.
Well, I go out there and do what I do. I go out there and play the biggest guys, the toughest guys. They see me go out there doing it every day in and day out. I hope it rubs off.
All right, Dennis, good to see you, man. Good luck to you.
I want to say hello to my wife, Tara Patrick. I hope that you're...
Los Angeles continued their dominating run and started the Worm era with a 10-game winning streak, after starting the season with a 6-6 record without him. Over that stretch, Rodman was averaging 10.3 rebounds per game and only 25 minutes of action per night. He got as many as 20 rebounds in a victory over the Clippers. At this point, even Jerry West had changed his tune, as he referred to Rodman as a basketball genius in an interview. You would think, with this much success, that it would be all smiles in the Lakers locker room. But unfortunately, that wasn't exactly the case, as Rodman missed several team practices, while other teammates complained about the unequal standards that they were held to. Rodman's gambling and party-heavy lifestyle continued, which resulted in public rumors that he was cheating on his wife. Even Shaq, who was initially in favor of bringing in Rodman, was starting to become frustrated with his questionable practices and decision-making, as he would often take naps during team scrimmages and often smelled repulsive, since he only showered before games rather than after. Things would quickly get even more wild. After the 10th straight win, Rodman had to leave the team for personal reasons, and apparently even the head coach Kurt Rambis didn't know why. There were rumors that Rodman had unpaid gambling debts. There were rumors that Elektra was now cheating on him, and there were even rumors that they were getting a divorce. Needless to say, it was a distraction for the Lakers, as Dennis missed their next 3 games, and LA went 1-2 in that stretch. When he returned to the lineup, the Lakers would win their next 2 games over Orlando and Dallas, which meant their winning streak was extended to 12 games when Rodman was in the lineup. As a reward for his play, Rodman was moved to the starting lineup for the first time. But although his minutes may have increased significantly, his level of focus seemed to decrease. The off-the-court drama was starting to affect Rodman's performance, as he was lacking his usual effort defensively, while getting into an excessive amount of on-the-court altercations. He was also now missing every other team practice, as he was less reliable than ever before. All of these headaches may have been tolerable if the Rodman era maintained its dominant start, but after the 12 straight victories, Rodman and the Lakers proceeded to go 6-6, which is the same record they had before he had signed. On April 13th, in a matchup against the Portland Trail Blazers, Dick Stockton and Hubie Brown perfectly summed up what the Rodman experiment had amounted to.
A late report on Dennis Rodman is that he has a sore left elbow and will not play in the second half. And Hubie, everyone talks about how he could be the missing link in the puzzle for the Lakers. I think at this point you'd have to say that his signing has been a detriment to this team, because with all of the problems that he has brought upon this team, missing practice, going off on his own, all of the things, we don't have time to enumerate it. He really hasn't done the job they wanted, the offensive rebounding, as much as he has.
Just think out here. There are 9 power forwards in the West who have played in the Western All-Star game. Now think about that. So he has been dominating now in the last 10 days by Karl Malone, by Weber, by Baker at Seattle, and then by Grant here this evening. Now he is getting destroyed at his strong suit, defense. He cannot control these guys, and he's being out-rebounded. So, he can pout and do all that he wants, but there are no suspensions. So who are you and I? Because they play him and start him the very next game.
In the very next team practice after these comments, Rodman would show up without his shoes or socks, claiming that he didn't know where they were. And that was the last straw for the organization. Rodman was immediately released from the team. In his 23 games in Los Angeles, he averaged 2 points, 11.2 rebounds, and had a total of 11 technical fouls. Although many of the Lakers on that roster were relieved to see him go, one of the guys who didn't want him to leave was actually Kobe Bryant.
Kurt was put in a very tough situation. One, because he was the head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers, first head coaching job, and then you bring in Dennis. Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I would love to have Dennis right now. I would love to. Win cures everything. If you don't drop these last 2 games, you're still here.
Now, the 1999 Lakers wouldn't really improve after they released Dennis Rodman. They would finish out the year with 9 wins and 9 losses, including a playoff sweep at the hands of the eventual champion San Antonio Spurs. But during the offseason, the Lakers would hire Phil Jackson to be their new head coach, which would be the dawn of a new and very successful era. According to Rodman, after the Lakers had hired Jackson, he was waiting anxiously by his phone, waiting for a call from the Lakers, since him and Jackson had previously had championship success together. But that call would never come. To me, this is one of the more fascinating and interesting what-ifs in NBA history. Because if you ask me, without question, the 1999 Lakers had a much higher ceiling with Rodman in the lineup. But that team was also like a group of sheep without a shepherd. They desperately needed the calm and composed leadership that Phil Jackson would provide 1 year later, which in Rodman's case was 1 year too late. If Jackson didn't take a 1-year hiatus after his departure from the Bulls and was available for the Lakers to manage the egos, the chemistry, and the drama, then I can only imagine how much more success the Lakers would have had with Dennis Rodman in 1999. Unfortunately, we'll never know for sure.
In the end, who would have thought Carmen Electra would have gotten more out of her marriage to the Worm than did the Lakers?